Hi, my name is Leandro Facchinetti, and let's write some code together, shall we? What we have on the menu today is part 2, and hopefully the last part of this series of streams. Well, it's a series, it has 2 parts, in which I am developing a Slack bot to fix something that annoys the hell out of me. So there will be some cursing in this, there will be some cursing and negativity in this stream. But here is the issue that I'm trying to fix. If you use Slack, you can enable notifications for, you can come here to preferences and notifications, and you can enable notifications via email if you receive a direct message, personal private message, or if someone mentions you on one of the public channels and you get an email for that. Other than that, if someone is just talking whatever on the public channels, you will not get an email notification, and there is no way to enable this kind of notification, which is super important for me because I don't want to monitor the chat on my day job. We use Slack, and it makes sense to use Slack because everyone else involved in the project uses Slack for other things. So having another chat app just because I don't happen to like Slack wouldn't make sense. So we are using Slack, and we don't talk too frequently, maybe a couple messages a week. And if people don't mention me, I don't get a notification, and I end up looking like a fool because I don't answer to the messages. So what I'm doing is a bot that listens to activity on all the public channels and will send me an honest to goodness email when someone says anything. And we already did most of the wiring of things together on the last stream. We learned how to work with the Slack API, which is okay in the sense that it works and the library for Node.js works, but its documentation is all over the place. There are 500 different flavors of the API. It's a freaking nightmare. In any case, we figured everything out on the last stream. So today, what we have to do is to deploy this. What we are going to do is we are going to have a server, and the server is going to be the bot. So we are going to send the notification from the Slack API into this server, and the server will send me an email. And the app is already working on my machine. So this is just what we did last time, and I did add a couple things. I add a log message here, and I redid the whole step. So when I was figuring things out on the last stream, I was kind of sharing my private keys on the stream because it just happened to pop on the screen. So what I did was I destroyed the whole app, the API keys and everything after the stream, and I recreated everything from scratch, and I started to document what was going on. And then I recreated the API keys and everything, and it's all in this env file that I'm not going to show you because this time it is the real API keys that I'm not going to share with anyone, and we are going to deploy with these API keys. So let's see what changed. Well, a console log and some notes on the README. So whatever. These are the things that I did while I was off stream. So let's review what we have in terms of code, and then we can try to deploy this, and we'll see how it goes. So here in our Packagejson, I think that there are some things we want to change. First of all, I prefer to have my development dependencies after my production dependencies, and we don't need Express on this app. We are just not using it. Because the Slack bolt, which is the Slack library to work with the Slack API, it already starts a web server. I'm pretty sure it's gonna use Express under the hood. Maybe we can search for this just to learn how they're doing it. Bolt. And this is something that I like doing when I am using a project. I like to go to the dependencies of that project, and then I sometimes pick up some interesting dependencies, like, yes, they are using Express. That's what I thought. Okay, so we have that. Also, I think we should have a start script. So let's have a scripts thing with start, And then what we need to do to start for local development is, well, we need to start two processes actually. So I'm going to install concurrently. So I'm able to start two processes. And well, I don't want to change the Packagejson as this is doing its thing because it's going to change the Packagejson. Okay, it's done now. So concurrently, I want to start my server. So this is just running the index file. And then I want to run local tunnel on port. How did I run this exactly? So local tunnel on port 3000. And now having done that, I can just say npm start. And then it failed. I wonder why. It started the server, but it did not start the local tunnel. In case you are wondering, we talked about this last time, but the local tunnel is something that allows the public internet to see the server running on my machine, which is essential for development because when you are receiving these API notifications, they are called events, I need to have in somewhere in here, oh no, I showed the token. Oh, damn it, I'll have to recreate it. That's all right. Yeah, I guess I can just reinstall to workspace, and that will make that will create a new token. Oh, damn it. Okay, so yeah, I have here the URL, and this is when something happens, when someone posts a message on Slack, this URL gets notified. Oh, in fact, I think I want to put this on the README for later, that we want to have whatever URL / Slack events. That's essential. Okay, so here we are. Yeah, so this URL needs to be accessible from the public internet because Slack is going to send me a request, and my computer is not available on the public internet. So local tunnel is this library that makes your local development server available for anyone, which is useful for testing these kinds of API hooks, but it's also useful for testing things like on your phone. If you don't have a local area network to connect from your phone directly to your dev machine. Okay, so why is local tunnel not working? Let's see if we just try to run this command, what happens then? It seems to work. And then if I say npm start, it doesn't work. I wonder why that would be. Oh, local tunnel, command not found. But npx is finding it. And I'm pretty sure it is here. No, it's not. So when I npx, well, is there a local tunnel installed on my machine? I don't think I installed it. No. So when I say npx local tunnel, it finds it. I thought that npx would only look in this directory. That is crazy stuff. What's happening? Let me commit what I have because I'm going to start hacking away at things to try to figure this out. Not even sure where I start. Well, is there something else? Maybe you can just use LT. Local tunnel is there is this other binary for local tunnel, LT. If you look at the local tunnel documentation, you're going to see that, and I read the documentation after the last stream, there are local tunnel and LT, but what is going on? Why is npx even working? I have no idea, but I guess if I change this to LC, then it will work. No. But if I change this to npx local tunnel, then it will work. Then it works. Yeah, I have no idea why npx is even working in this case and why I have to say npx. I was under the impression that when you use concurrently, it is under the environment that you're running npm start. In that case, you already have all the things in your .bin folder in place. But I guess I am wrong? I don't know, that is weird. But never mind that, okay. So anytime you say npm start, you get a new local tunnel URL. And then you have to, anytime you start the server, you have to come here and change this URL because the URL is gonna change. That's just the nature of the game. If you didn't want this to change, you would have to like pay some company to reserve a subdomain for you or whatever. We're not doing that. Another thing that could be useful is anytime we change the script, we would have to restart, which means we would have to rerun the local tunnel stuff or change this configuration. So I guess it makes sense to have to install NodeDev and then say NodeDev over here. But I'm not gonna say it because yeah, npm was putting NodeDev on this file. Yeah, here it is. It's actually a development dependency. So how about I remove NodeDev and install NodeDev for development. And here it is. So now I can say NodeDev dot, which is going to start the server in development mode. So since all of this is for development, I guess I will call this start dev, and I'm going to leave I'm going to leave start for the production way of starting this, which will be just node dot. And I'm looking ahead. I know how I want to deploy this using Heroku, so I know that it will try to run npm start. Okay, so, and I like to be more explicit, so development. You have to type some more, but it looks better. I find anyway. All right, so I guess this is enough. And then we will even have live reloading. When you save the index file, it will reload with the new changes. So let's see everything else. We are using the SendGrid API to send email. We are using Bolt from Slack concurrently and NodeDev. Concurrently is only used for development, so I can uninstall concurrently and npm install for development concurrently. And I would venture that even .env is only for development, because on Heroku we are going to have the environment variables already in place and we won't have a .env file. So I don't really remember how the .env package manages this. No. Do they have like a best practice in terms of this? Yeah, it seems like there is no best practice on their documentation, but I guess I'm gonna do the following. I'm going to say remove.env from production, so on Heroku we'll not have that. And GSPT 4760 says, hey GSPT 4760. It's nice to have you here. What we are doing today is we are deploying that Slack bot that sends email notifications for public conversations on public channels on Slack. And we are just tidying things up, preparing it for deployment, and we are gonna deploy to Heroku. That's what is on the menu today. So it's mostly DevOps, I guess. So yeah, installing .env for development. And then look at that, the production dependencies are only the APIs I'm using from Slack to get the notifications and to SendGrid to send the emails. I really like the way that this reads. And then of course I also need to come here to my source, and I need to say if process env node env is not production, then load the .env file. Because if it is production, I won't even have the .env library. So that's what it is. Okay. And Heroku is going to set the NodeDev environment variable for us. That's just something I know. So we looked at the Packagejson, and I think it is all right. We could have some metadata like a name for the project and whatever, but I don't think we are going to have this as an npm package. It is just going to be an application that you deploy. So don't really think it makes sense to have things like versions and names and author and license, that sort of thing over here in the Packagejson. So just a way to start the thing in production mode, a way to start it in development mode, some dependencies, and that's the story. I won't even write tests for this. I don't think it makes sense. GSPT4760 says, nice, I have a Discord bot I need to deploy to Heroku, but I don't feel like doing it, lol. It's a personal project, so I'll deploy it one day. Yeah, maybe this will get you inspired to deploy the app. It's super easy. You will see. We'll be able to do this in one stream. Famous last words. Alright, so the Packagejson is alright, then our git ignore is also alright, and then our index file, it's pretty much stuff we copy and pasted, but let's review it. So this is checking that we are not in production, and then we load the environment variables from the .env file. And then over here, I copy and pasted this from other places, but guess I can... I was thinking about renaming this to be more meaningful, like instead of app, I could call it like Slack API listener or whatever, and I could call this like email sender. Yeah, I guess I'll do that. Email sender. Or mailer? I could call it mailer. And then instead of app, well, this needs to be app. Well, I guess I can require it like this, so I can say Slack, and then here I can say slack.app, and then instead of app, I can say Slack event, or Slack API, or just Slack, actually. And here, instead of mailer, I guess I'll say send grid. I could go generic and say mailer and event listener or whatever for Slack, but since these are specifically for these APIs, they are not abstracted in any way. I think it makes sense to have it this way. But then I have the Slack variable defined twice, so maybe I'll call this the Slack boat, because that's what this is. Maybe even just boat. Slack boat, I think that makes sense. All right, so we are doing some stuff here to initialize. So we are requiring, then we are doing some stuff here to initialize the API. So we are essentially passing on the keys, the API keys that I should have kept secret, but I accidentally showed on the stream again, and I'm going to recreate. I think I only showed this one, so that's the one I'm going to recreate. And then some sendGrid API key, which I showed how to get last time. It's not too hard. And then when we get a message from Slack, is there something like the author of the message? Maybe the username? Yeah, that could be useful, because I ideally would not receive emails for messages that I sent myself. Ideally, I would also not receive too many emails. So if there is a real conversation going on, I want to have some like debouncing thing that will notice, oh, I sent an email 1 minute ago, so I won't send it again. So we can write this logic real quick here. But we can also look at whatever is on this message object. So how about we have a console log of the message. So I'm going to JSON stringify the message. In fact, I'm going to JSON stringify the arguments. I'll call these args. Usually I would go for arguments, but that's a reserved word in JavaScript. So I'll also say undefined and two, so I get pretty printing, and I will not actually send emails this time, because I'm going to run this and see what comes out, and then maybe I will rewrite some of this logic to only send emails when it makes sense to do that. So then we have this main thing that starts, I think it makes sense to write it like this. I prefer to have it like this. I prefer to have all my requires in one place and then have a big async block, because in some cases to initialize stuff you need to do something asynchronous, because something needs to load a file from the file system or whatever. So it makes sense to have the async block wrapping around the whole body. But I don't like to have my requires in the async block, because looking forward, these requires will turn into imports when I start using ECMAScript modules. And then I cannot have an import on a block like this. But then I will also have top level await, so that whole thing will go away. In any case, that's the style that I follow these days. So now we await for the thing to start on a port, and that's necessary for Heroku. Heroku will have this environment variable, and it will be a different port every time. And then I renamed, this is something I should mention, I renamed the project. Instead of being Slack sucks, not that it doesn't suck, Slack does suck hard, but I wanted people to be able to find this. So I made the project name more descriptive, like Slack email notifications. I don't think it gets more explicit than that. So Slack email notifications started. And then I'll put some ellipses in there. So, and because we are printing to the console, which is usually showed with a monospaced font, I will go for 3 dots. This is a single character. You can see that my cursor moves atomically. I hit Option semicolon to type in a real ellipsis, which makes sense in proportional fonts, but since this is a monospaced font, I think it makes more sense to have 3 actual dots in there. You can also see the difference when I replaced, it became 3 characters. So Slack email notifications started, and then we'll listen for messages and log whatever comes in. And I guess this is like my event. So let's start the app for development, npm run start development, and configure Slack to send notifications to this place. Well, better yet, before I even start this, because I will have to tweak some knobs here to make this even work, here's what I'm going to do. I'm switching to this camera so you don't see my screen, and I'm going to recreate that OAuth token. You know what? You don't need to see my face as I do this. I'm going to recreate the OAuth token. I'm going to put it in my .env file, and I see you back in a minute. This is turning out to be more complicated than I was expecting. I thought that if I just came here and said reinstall to workspace, it would give me a new key. It didn't. Yikes. So maybe I can show you my thought process. I'm gonna try to go to my workspace and see if I can manage my apps and uninstall the app. Settings and administration, manage apps, and then we'll find our app in there, and maybe I can uninstall it. Open in Slack, one authorized member, remove app. This app was created by a member of your workspace, blah, blah, blah. And then if I come here and refresh, I think it's a good measure to refresh this, come back to the manage apps. I should not see the app in there, and I don't see the app in there. And now my OAuth token here should not be there. All right, so now I'm switching back to this screen. I'm going to click on this install to workspace, and I think I will get a new key out of doing this. Yes, I got a new key. So I'm now going to paste this into the right place. And I think we are good. So I can start to show you the screen again. So I'll go back to my other screen here, because as soon as I command tab, I would show you the key. That is hard. Not showing a key on the stream is surprisingly hard. Ideally, everything would have like asterisks and then a button to actually show the API key, or even after you create the API key, you don't get to see it again. And if you need, you have to recreate it. That's what SendGrid does, and I think that is better, but you know, it's just one of these things. So I have a new OAuth token, and in terms of basic information, I also have that signing secret, but I don't think that that one changed. So that's what I am checking right now as you watch me do it. But just out of precaution, maybe I showed it for whatever reason on this stream. I don't think I did, but I created a new one, and to create a new one of these is actually easy. It has a button to just regenerate. So that's all right. And then let me double, triple check, quadruple check that I don't have any API keys on the browser. Yes, that is all right. So you can start to see my screen again. Awesome. All right, so I have uninstalled and reinstalled the app on my workspace. So if I come back to manage apps, I see my app in there. Excellent. And I think I will have to come here to the room and enable the app on this room. Yes, there it is now. So with all of that in place, I should be able to start this thing for development. Oh no, I showed all my keys on the stream. Oh, fuck. I'll go ahead and recreate all my keys and paste them on the file again. I see you back in a minute. Okay, I'm back. Let me quadruple check that I'm not gonna mess it up this time. This is getting ridiculous. Okay, I guess everything is okay. I don't see the API keys on my browser. There are like 500 different places where these API keys show up. I don't have anything open. I'll now share my screen again. Let's do this. Let's do this. So I rotated all the keys, including the send grid key, by the way. Let me double just yes, yeah. Okay, I'm confident now. I rotated all the keys, the Slack keys, the send grid keys. Let's not make this mistake again. Okay, so I should be able to now run this. And then I can copy this URL. Oh, for whatever reason it followed the URL. Oh, you know what? I think what I should say, maybe here when I start the app, I maybe could give you the URL you need to put in here. Well, not really, because I don't know the local tunnel URL. Yeah, whatever. If I want to change this, yeah. All right, save changes. So now the things are going to the new URL, the events are going to the new URL, and I am running the app on my machine. So I can come here and did I add? I had to uninstall the app and reinstall the app to get a new key. So did I remember to add the app to this room? I think I did. So if I say something, yes, I got some output. Excellent. So I received the message. Let's see what we have here. We have a body, and I hope that these are all public things that I can show to people. API app ID, I think that's okay for me to show these things. I hope it is. Whatever, please don't hack me, I'm doing my best. Cut me some slack. I am showing a bunch of things that maybe I shouldn't show, whatever. So, is there somewhere in here the name of this stuff? Like, oh, fuck, this is the bot token. I'll have to redo it. Well, right, whatever. I know how to do it with my eyes closed this time. What a nightmare. You shouldn't be logging this kind of thing. I mean, why is this even on that object? Whatever. I guess it's my fault. I logged it, but I don't think that the event should have the keys in there. It doesn't really make sense. Maybe it could have a method that would do stuff using the key, but then it would print as just function on the console. Whatever, I'll do it again in a second, but is there something like my name? Of course there isn't. Is there something like my handle? Well, this is gonna be all over the place, but no, my handle is not there either, so I would need to make like extra API calls to get a hold of this information. So I'm going to leave this as is, and I'm going to send emails to myself even when I am the author of the message. So in summary, there is nothing of interest in this event, unless I do extra API calls, which I'm not inclined to do. So I guess I will have a sending email sort of thing when I am sending email, and I will send email to this place. Well, actually, I could have an environment variable for this. So I guess I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'll have process env email or to, and then process env from. So this way, when I prefer to have it as from and to. So when you are, you can get the code from GitHub and deploy it yourself on Heroku and use your own email addresses. And there are new messages on Slack. There are new messages on Slack. So maybe I'll just have... I wish I could give you like the name of the channel, the name of the workspace, but it doesn't seem to be possible. So I could have environment variables for that, but then it just starts to get annoying. Maybe as an optional thing you could do that. So maybe I'll have something like process env work Slack workspace. If that variable exists, then maybe I will show it like this. Yeah, like that. And if it doesn't exist, then I just don't show you anything. There are new messages on Slack, and then the workspace that you set. And as text, I have to put something in here, so just put a dot in there. Otherwise, the SendGrid API seems to complain. Okay, I'm going to also clear this console. Clean slate. And with that, I'm going to commit these changes, and I want to test this app on my machine before I deploy. And I want to test the whole process. I actually want to receive an email. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch back to this screen, and we are going to recreate all the freaking keys. And you're going to see my face as I narrate what I am doing, but you don't get to see it because I don't want to share my keys. Okay, so first, I'm going to go to my .env file, which has all the keys in there, but I'm not going to show you this because I need to set the from, the to, and these are the environment variables we introduced. So from, to, and maybe even Slack workspace. No, I won't have Slack workspace. So from, that's important. The SendGrid API has verified that I can send email from this email. The to doesn't really matter as long as I am able to access that inbox. And then I have to recreate the bot token, and I will recreate the signing secret as well, just because it's easy. To do that, I'm going to go and do the whole song and dance again. Coming to my workspace on Slack and manage apps, and then I'm going to remove that app. That's one more thing that I don't like about Slack. It shows you the API keys too easily. So I did that, and then I'm going to install into the workspace again. That should give me a new key. And it did. All right, now let's go to the basic information on the Slack API page. Go to signing secret and recreate that value. I really hope that this is the last time I have to do this. But who knows? Maybe I'll mess it up again. Okay, I think I'm good to go. I recreated the, I need to come here and I uninstalled the app, I reinstalled the app, I rotated the signing secret as well, and then I have to come here to my channel, enable the integration in there. All right, and then we can run the app. So GSPT 4760, you can see the hardest part is not sharing your keys accidentally. Deploying to Heroku is relatively easy. Okay, so we have here a URL. We can come to the API stuff, change it, Slack events, and then hope for the best. All right, save the changes. So now we are Slack email notifications started. I would just say something. Sending email. All right. So now I'm going to switch back to only show my face because I'm going to open my email. And we are gonna wait a little bit because I should receive an email. And look at that. Here is the email. I don't know why it's saying that it comes from my wife. It does not. It comes from the SendGrid stuff. But here is the email. There are new messages on Slack. There you go. This works. So now let's stop this because we are going to deploy this to Heroku. So here I have the Heroku account open and we are going to create a new app. GSPT4760 says, everyone has shared an API key at some point. Yeah, it seems like that is the case. Well, if you try to commit and push an API key to GitHub, I think that you get an email saying like, oh, I don't think you want to do that. I don't remember how I learned this, but I don't think it was by mistake. I didn't actually push an API key. I think it was like some test of some sort. I wanted to know if that was the case and I received an email, something like that. Okay, so this is the Slack email notifications app. And you may be wondering, why am I deploying this to Heroku? There are plenty of options. I'm deploying this to Heroku because it's free. So I'm going to deploy to Heroku, which is free. I am on the free tier of SendGrid because I will be sending a few emails a day at most. And oh yeah, maybe I could not send too many emails. That's something I could try to do. Let's create the app. And yeah, so Slack is going to use the API and that's free. Heroku is going to host this for free from me. And SendGrid is going to send the emails for free. So this is and ends up being free, which is like, I wouldn't pay to receive emails. I would just convince everyone on the team to use a different chat app that didn't have this issue. So now I want to connect to GitHub. And then I hope that I don't like show any GitHub API keys or whatever. Okay, so we are gonna go to the Slack email notifications app and connect. So now anytime I push to GitHub, Heroku will get the news and it will deploy a new version. And or at least now the repository and Heroku are connected. I can enable this thing I just mentioned. So anytime I push to the main, I will automatically deploy. Now that we have all this set up, I should be able to push and it will deploy to Heroku. But before I do that, let's try to write this thing that will only send emails when necessary. So I guess the way this is going to work is I'm going to have something like last sent date of last sent email, which is going to be maybe a new date of maybe date now of minus. I just want to have a number in the past. So what if I just say new date of 0? I think that will be like something around 1970. I think that's what's gonna happen. So let's see. Yes, around 1970. That's when the timestamps started. So I can start with a date of last sent email that is way in the past. Then I can have something in here that will be if date now minus the date of last sent email. So date now is the current date, and the date of the last sent email, that's going to be in milliseconds. So if the difference is less than a certain number, and I guess I will receive this number from an environment variable. So I'll say that this is like debounce debounce duration. And of course that is going to be a string, so turn this into a number. But if you don't set, I want to have a good default for this. Like I have a good default for the Slack workspace. So I guess the debounce duration will be maybe a minute. So 60 seconds times 1,000 milliseconds. So if this is the case, I'm not sure I got the logic right here, but what I want to do is say something like console log email received but ignored because of to prevent too many emails from being sent. And then just a dot, because this is not an ongoing thing. And then a return, which stops the execution of this function. And then when I actually send emails, I want to update the date of last sent email to be date now. And maybe I want to update this. Yeah, so what if instead of, oops, I kicked your ear, sorry about that. So instead of sending emails based on the date of the last sent email, how about we listen for the last sent message? So if there is a conversation going and it's back and forth and messages are being sent every minute or every 30 seconds or whatever, then I only notify you once. So instead of having a date of last sent email, I'll have a date of last sent, date of last message. And this date now, it doesn't really return a date, it returns a number. So I guess I'll call this the timestamp. Maybe last message timestamp. All right, so and the way I'm doing this, I will want to update the timestamp every time. So I guess I could do it both here and there. I don't like this repetition, but let's work through the logic because I think that the logic may be wrong here. The idea that I have is if there is a conversation going on and messages are being sent back and forth with no more than like 2 seconds, 2 minutes. So maybe I can write it like this. Let's say it's 5 minutes. There you go. If no messages are sent on 5 minutes, then I will get a new email when someone sends a message. So let's work through this logic. To begin with, the last message timestamp is going to be a very small number. Well, that's silly to do new message of 0 because the to value of this, what is it called? The to number, not to value, not to number. How do I get to time? I think it's called to time. How do I get the number of milliseconds? It's get time, I think it is. There you go, it's 0, so that's silly. I can just start with the thing being 0. So last message timestamp. So to begin with, the last message timestamp is going to be in the 70s, 1970s. That's all right. And then let's see if I am updating everything correctly. Yes, I guess I am. Yeah, I prefer to do this in a single place. So I'll have something like should send email, which will be the result of this, which we have to double check. And then we'll have something that updates the last message timestamp in a single place. And then we'll have an if. If should send email, then try to send the email. Else, I guess that's it. And I don't need this return anymore. Okay, let's see how this reads. Last message timestamp starts with 0, then should send email. I'll double check this logic in a moment, and then I update the timestamp. If I should send email, I'll try to say sending email and then actually send the email using the SendGrid API. And then I can catch an error and log the error if the API doesn't work. The console log, I'm confident that will work. And I put the console log in the try, so I will have a single block with the try catch situation. Else, I will log email received but ignored to prevent too many emails from being sent. That's all right. So all we have left to do is to check this logic. I'll commit what I have, and then let's check the logic. So this date now will be something like a timestamp of now. So it will be date now will be a big number like this. And to begin with, we'll subtract 0 from that. All right. So that gives me the amount of time that has passed since the last message was sent. If the amount of time that has passed is greater than a certain threshold, then it should send email. So I had the logic flipped. Yes, I think that is all right. And then if it's greater than a certain threshold, which is the debounce duration, which by default will be 5 minutes, then it should send email. How about we test this for reals, now that I think that the logic makes sense. So yeah, and by the way, then this last message timestamp will be updated. And then the next time this comes around, the date now minus the updated last message timestamp will be the difference in time between the last message and the message that I'm processing right now. And then if it's greater than a certain threshold, I should send email. So I think that the logic holds water this time. So I'm going to npm run start development, and I will update this URL. By the way, if I just save this file, see how it restarts? That's great, isn't it? That's because of NodeDev that we set up before. So I can restart the app just by saving, and I don't have to stop the tunnel, which will not change this URL. That's a good behavior to have. So now let's change this to the new endpoint. And it has been verified. So now I can see the logs, I can send a message, and it's gonna say sending email. And it's actually going to send the email because I did not comment out this. I meant to do it, but I didn't. So now I'll take send another message, and it's gonna say email received but ignored to prevent too many emails from being sent. There you go, this works. All right, so I stopped the app, and I think that we did everything we needed to do to set this up. I think that the app is done. So let's deploy this to Heroku finally. So the GitHub repository is already connected to the Heroku app, and I can just push and it will deploy. But before I do that, I need to come here to the settings, and I need to set up the environment variables because they are set up here on my .env file locally. All the keys are in there, and I'm not going to show you this, but all the keys are in there. And I have to set up the environment variables on Heroku. So before I click here, I'll switch back to this camera because you never know. Doesn't seem like there is anything too sensitive in here. Yes, all right, so I can actually show you this. So yeah, here I was on this screen, and I came here to settings, and under settings there is this config vars, which are environment variables. Config vars change the way your app behaves in addition to creating our own. Some add-ons come with their own. That's a weird sentence, but there are no config variables yet. So I can set the config variables here, or I can deploy first, the app will fail, and then I do it. Because I know that when I deploy the first time, some config variables will be set up. In particular, I know that Heroku, at least it did the last time I played with Heroku, it will set up the NodeDev variable. So how about we deploy first, the app will crash, and then we try it again with the environment variables in place. So I'm going to push. This is going to go to Heroku, to GitHub. It is on GitHub. And then a build is going to trigger here. I'm switching to my face for a moment because I want to make sure that I'm not showing anything sensitive. Yeah, so there is a build in progress here. It will notice that I have, so let me take a quick look at this build progress to see if there's something sensitive in there. I don't think there is anything sensitive in there. All right, it's finishing. All right. Okay, so I can show you this. This is great. So here the log for this build was, it created the environment variables I was talking about, and if I had some environment variables in place, I wasn't sure that it would create these environment variables for me. But NodeDev is set to production, and some other things are set as well. And then it noticed that it's a Node app, and it is installing dependencies, and it's gonna run. And yeah, so this is the URL that I can put here for the last time, but I will not do it right now because the app has crashed, I am pretty sure. So let me switch back to my face, and I'll go look at the logs. Yes, all right. So yeah, what I did was I came here to the view log situation, and I can see an exception, of course, because I don't have the environment variable. So let me go now to the settings. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so I came here to the settings, and it seems like the config vars are not showing the NodeEnv and whatnot, but they are environment variables that are set. So yeah, I think I am safe to add this environment variable. So then again, I'm going to switch to this camera, and I am going to copy and paste the stuff from my .env file into Heroku. And you don't need to actually see me copying and pasting. So I'll be back in a moment. I am back. So what I did was just to copy and paste this stuff from my .env file, which lists all the keys and everything. I copied that into this part, and I'm not going to review it because those are going to be my keys. Then I should be able to just restart the app and it should work, I guess. Let's see. So how do I even restart the app? And if I go to overview, it should not be running, right? Yeah, so remember how I said that I wanted to leave npm start for the production thing? Well, the way Heroku works is it notices that you have a JavaScript app because of the Packagejson, and then it installs the dependencies using npm, and it knows that it needs to run npm CI to do that, and it knows that it should run npm start. So if I just say node dot, it will try to run my app. And it will run it in production mode because it set the environment variable. So it will load the environment variables from Heroku. And it will also load the port from Heroku. So I think that this will just fly. Let's see what we have here in terms of resources. I want to restart this. Or maybe when I set an environment variable, it already restarts. Let's look at the logs. Yes, it restarted. So every time I set an environment variable when I was copying and pasting stuff, it was restarting the app every time. So it restarted the app with node dot and it started. So I should be able to copy the link for the app from Heroku to here and say /Slack events, and it should respond. All right, it did. And then I think this is going to be the last time I have to do this. I can close this, and the app is already installed and everything. So I can just send a, let me make sure I have the logs open. So it logged the fact that Slack was verifying the API endpoint. So I can just send a message, and it's sending email. So switching back to my face cam, and let's go to my inbox. And look at this. Isn't this awesome? Isn't this excellent? And if I say something else on the chat, then email received but ignored to prevent too many emails from being sent. And I didn't test for this, but I guess I can wait 5 minutes and it will send me an email, right? How about we wait 5 minutes on the stream to check this out? And meanwhile, we can write some docs. The first thing that I want to have, I have some notes here, but the first thing I want to have in the docs are the environment variables that you need to set. So what I can do is come to my index file, and anywhere where you say, where I say process env, I will take note. So NodeDev is a standard thing. I don't have to document that, but I will have to document all these other variables. I think that's it. Let's double check. So I have the Slack bot token and signing secret and SendGrid API key and debounce duration and Slack workspace. Oh, and from and to, that's super important. I think it should come first actually. In fact, I really want to make sure that I'm not missing anything, so I'm going to switch back to my face cam and I'm going to compare this to my .env file. See if I have everything in there. Okay, everything is in there. So I can switch back to this, and we can write some docs. Let me commit what I have, and I'm going to come to my code folder, and I will clone another repository to borrow some stuff. What is a good repository to do this? Maybe Cache. Yeah, that's another project I have. So I'm going to clone this, and I'm going to copy things like the license and whatnot from this other project. So let's see, code of conduct, license, and maybe also some parts of the README. So I know that I like these headings, and maybe this section about support. God, this documentation is long. Okay, I think that's good enough. And then everywhere it says Cache, I will say Slack email notifications. Have 5 minutes passed already? I'm not sure. I think I will have it like this. Receive email notifications for public channels. For every channel, or for public channels, I guess. Direct messages I don't think will be heard by the bot. Yeah, for any channel. For public channels, yes. That's what this does actually. So I won't have an npm package, and I won't have GitHub Actions because I don't have tests for this. All right, so I think in here I should explain how to deploy this to Heroku, how to create the API keys that you will need. But first I need to describe the problem. I am streaming this because I find that, first of all, because I want to stream for 5 minutes, because I want to have something to show to see if the 5 minutes have elapsed, if I get a new email. Could have done this on my machine and have the lower threshold, but it is what it is. In any case, I also want to show how I write documentation. That's a non-glamorous part of working on open source, but it's so important. It's what gets your project noticed and what gives you credibility. So yeah, Slack sends email notifications for direct messages, and when you are mentioned on a public channel, but it doesn't send email notifications when regular conversation is happening on a public channel. I always prefer to have singular. Instead of saying channels, I say a public channel. So Slack sends an email notification for, you may configure, it doesn't send by default, you may configure Slack to send an email notification for a direct message when someone is talking to you in private, and when, okay, you may configure Slack to send an email notification for a direct message and when you are mentioned on a public channel. But you can't, but Slack doesn't send email notifications, doesn't send an email notification when regular conversation is happening on a public channel, you may, I'm pretty sure that 5 minutes have passed, but in any case, let's just finish this paragraph. If you are part of an organization, or if you are part of a group that doesn't send messages too often, then you either have to install the Slack applications and enable in-application notifications. So that's another quirk of the way I write. I don't like abbreviations like in-app notifications. No, in-application notifications, and enable notifications in the application. If you are part of a group that doesn't send a message, that doesn't talk too often, then either you have to install the Slack app and enable notifications in the application just for notification once in a while, or you may miss some conversations. Yeah. This application is a Slack bot that listens for activity on public channels and sends you an email notification, even if you aren't mentioned. Installation. Deployment. We'll talk about deployment in a minute, but before we do that, let's send another message. And sending email. Alrighty. In fact, I will even open my inbox to see the 2 emails. I should see 2 notifications. I see one of them. The other one must be coming. Oh no, I actually see 2 of them. Yeah. I see 2 of them. Alrighty. So I don't need to show you my inbox, but it is there, sir. It is there. This thing freaking worked. So maybe another thing I want to do is install this on the general chat. You have to remember to do that. So do I have that on the README? Install bot on channel. Yes. Add an app. Add. And then over here, we don't really talk on this channel, so maybe I should just remove this channel, but whatever. Add an app. All right, so I have installed the app on all the channels that I care about. I don't see it here, however. Integrations, apps, Slack, email notifications. All right, it is there. And then, yeah, we need to talk about deployment and testing, or local development, and what else? I think that will be it. This will be a short README. So let me commit what I have. And I think we're going to wrap this up. I can write the rest of the docs and you see how it will show up on GitHub. You can write the rest of the docs on off stream, but you have already a glimpse of how I write my docs, my preferences and my way of writing and my style. So I think that's it for today. We deployed to Heroku. The app is working. I'm receiving email notifications. I am happy. I'm not happy. I'm not happy that I had to spend 2 days doing this, but I'm happier than I was when I started the stream. Tomorrow, we're going to go back to my NodeDev app, this app that allows you to draw on top of your computer screen for things like streaming. So a very meta stream. A stream about developing tools for streaming. But yeah, see you tomorrow at 5:30 UTC. Thanks GSPT4760 and everyone else who was here. Thanks for subscribing to my channel, for supporting me on PayPal and Patreon. And I see you tomorrow. Bye.